Welcome to Cradle and All, a podcast hosted by sisters Renita and Christine to educate, inspire, and connect with other mothers. Every other week, listen as we discuss topics related to pregnancy, raising children, and balancing motherhood with other aspects of womanhood. Whether you're relaxing, juggling tasks, or even breast pumping, join us as we figure it out together. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cradle and All. This is Christine.
And this is Renita. We're so happy to have you back.
Yes. So I'm actually back from, right now it's about a couple of days after Labor Day, which is when we're recording this. And I have actually just returned from my vacation that I was mentioning in the Traveling with Kids episode. And oh my goodness.
Yeah. Tell us how that was.
Oh my gosh. It was a lot. It's not something I want to do often, but I know the kids loved it. It was all about the kids, but it's just
Tell us where you went, how you got there. Mm-hmm. Tell us.
Yeah. So we went to Delaware to visit my husband's family because that's where he's from. And so we flew for the first time with our two kids as a whole family. Dallas has flown with me before, but we've never all four of us flown together. So the preparation leading up to it was trying to think through everything. Y'all remember on the episode talking about all the things to consider when traveling, which I felt like I had considered those things. We had everything we needed. I had a fanny pack, which I do recommend. That was very, very helpful. I don't know if I mentioned that, but just like to be hands-free.
What did you put in the fanny pack? Like what was in there?
I put just like whatever I'd put in a purse, but some extra things for the kids, like napkins, tissues, but I also, baby wipes, but I also had a diaper bag for the kids. But, it was enjoyable. The kids, we prepped them. We read a book. I bought a book about flying for Dallas to read. And even brought an airplane when we were at the airport for him to put in his bag. But what made it a lot was the airport experience. Once we're on the plane and once we got there, but really it was the airport that made it a lot.
Because it's so big and just overwhelming, I would think.
It's just like a lot because you have so many things that you have to carry. You have to make multiple trips. So we had a rental car. So we had to get to the airport, unload everything. Then Dontrell had to go get the rental car because we used Turo, which we'd never used before.
Wait, what's that?
So Turo is when you're renting a car from a person. It's not through like an actual company. It's not like Enterprise or Hertz. It's like somebody can actually rent you their car, like an Airbnb type of thing.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that before.
So it's more affordable and you can maybe get a nicer car because it's somebody's personal vehicle. So then he had to go to like the long-term parking lot to get that. So now I'm waiting with the kids our flight was at 7 a.m. So we were at the airport by like 4:30 waiting. So just like the amount of coordination of like, okay, you go here, I'll wait with the kids and all of our stuff. Now we have to check the things and now we have to get through security
and your car seats and stuff like that too. Like, what'd you do about cars? 2 car seats?
We had 2 car seats.
Oh my God.
We checked 1 car seat, Dallas's, but Dakota, who's almost 2, we still have him the little infant car seat. So he was actually in the airport. We used that as his stroller. I actually have since bought a new one though. I just got him after I talked to you the other day, Renita. I got him another one.
About time he's graduated.
Yeah. We did. I got him a bigger one.
Of that one.
Yeah, it was time. His legs were hanging, dangling over it. But just like really what made it a lot was like all the things that had to be transported and just the coordination of that made it feel very stressful for us. And getting to the airport. And then once we land, then it's like getting all the stuff. Then he has to go get the car, just that for us, it was very stressful, but I will say, I know that Dallas loved it. His eyes just lit up when we were taking off. He was so excited, asking all these questions on the plane. He had his technology. He was perfectly fine. Dakota, on the other hand, like when we were going, he slept, but on the way back, he was awake the whole time and very, very, very active. Like he pooped and like it just stunk.
Oh my gosh.
And
y'all were that group.
We were.
So did you take him to the bathroom on the plane to change him? Like,
no,
what'd you do?
I just let it stink. I didn't do anything. I didn't know what to do. I just didn't see how that would work. Like, how do you change a baby in an airport, in a airplane bathroom?
Yeah.
There's no space.
Oh my gosh. So then were any of them fussy? Like, I know he was active, but did they cry at all? Were they having tantrums?
Weren't. Surprisingly, no. We were worried about the ears popping. So we bought this earplug thing called ear planes that you put in children's ears to prevent it from popping. But they didn't seem to be bothered by that. When we were at the airport, they were perfectly fine. I had so many snacks for them, so I kept pulling those out and keeping them satisfied. So they were not fussy on the plane, but it were, at other parts of the trip, there was some tantrums and disappointments that were happening.
Oh my goodness. So you made it. You did it.
Yeah. I don't know about doing it often at that age, but we're going to take this as a learning experience for next time. I think we know how to consolidate when we pack more, and the timing of it, I think, is very important. We had early morning flights. I don't know, maybe or maybe not we would do that. It was just, we'll see how we take these lessons for next time.
I mean, seriously, next thing you know, you guys will be pros at all of this, and the kids, they'll do better at it. And, that's perfect because it kind of talks about molding our kids and what they're used to, but also kind of talking about what we're going to discuss today, which is kids' behaviors. Mm-hmm. So there's so much unpredictability when it comes to how a kid's going to react in certain situations. And as parents, it's our jobs to help nurture them and have positive behaviors and try to steer them away from the negative ones. So let's get into it.
Yeah. This is a topic I'm really excited about because it makes me think about teaching, and how, for me, that this was one of my favorite parts of being a teacher was behavior management, which I feel like what I'm seeing a lot of nowadays is like the evolution of parenting to be more gentle and positive, and a focus on, managing adult behaviors that we can manage our little ones' behaviors, emotional regulation. And I think that it's so wonderful to see that because it's like an evolution of parenting. I think we all try to evolve from what we experienced, and I think our parents did as well. So I am so excited to talk about this today because it's something that I feel like can really develop people into great human beings when we teach them how to manage their behaviors. And it starts with little people.
That is so true. And I honestly think it's one of the hardest transitions that I was having as a new parent was dealing with your children's behaviors. Because when you're dealing in infancy, it's like sleep, poop, pee, eat, and do it all over again. But when they are toddlers, even as early as 1, that's when they're starting to explore who they are, figure out their boundaries, and it starts to come out with both good and negative kind of traits, or not traits, but behaviors. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I witnessed firsthand with now Russell, but definitely, Jackson back when he was 1, is tantrums, which, so I know a lot of moms out there have been there, and tantrums can be present in so many different ways. But it was very interesting to me that I found with Jackson and now Russell, the tantrums stemmed from them wanting to do more, but not being able to communicate or talk. And so it's almost like, okay, how do I handle the situation? Because I know that they're not doing anything bad, but it's just them trying to figure out how to communicate. So you probably saw this a lot firsthand as an early education teacher, but definitely with your kids too, their tantrums. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tantrums, I feel like, are a developmentally appropriate part of growing for children. Like you're saying, because of their communication skills that are developing, I think children will act out in a number of ways. So that comes in the form of tantrums, hitting, biting, really trying to communicate non-verbally, and also seeing what they can, kind of pushing the boundaries and seeing what is accepted, what's not acceptable. So tantrums, while they're frustrating, they are developmentally appropriate, and they're just bound to happen. And I think the way we respond to it can help teach children how to regulate their emotions when they are having a tantrum. But yeah, my kids, oh my God, tantrums are, I think, so frustrating because, for one, many times they happen in public. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I stop this? And sometimes no matter what you do, you can't stop it. It seems like.
And sometimes they're over the most irrational things. Like the other day, Jackson had this huge tantrum because I was holding his book wrong when I was reading him a book. He wanted my hands to be in a certain place on the book. And he just cried and was getting so upset. And I could not understand why he was upset. So we have this little technique that we do now to kind of calm him down when he's getting overwhelmed. And eventually he was able to talk to me about it and say, you didn't hold my book right or whatever. So now that he's 4, we started counting. So we said, okay, anytime you feel frustrated, go ahead and count from 1 to 10. And all day long, all you hear is 1, 2, 3. Like he counts all day long. So that was an easier thing to do. And he could communicate with me. But Russell, I mean, you can't do that with a 1-year-old. So how do you kind of get through some of the things that you do with your kids with tantrums?
Well, that is really a cool technique that you've taught him. And it seems like that works for him. I don't see that working for Dallas. The counting, he would not be going for that. I feel like I've tried it, but he would get annoyed with me. Like he does get annoyed when I tell him to calm down. He's like,
I can see that. He does get annoyed. I don't think I've ever seen Jackson annoyed, but Dallas like literally gets annoyed at times.
He gets annoyed a lot. He probably gets that from me. But I love how you found something that works for Jackson, who I think he's very like emotional, and I like that he can identify that and he can like work through it. So when Dallas is having tantrums, I try to let him, I really give him a space to work through it, to like go through the emotion. I let him go through it. He's having his tantrum. Let's see, a time that he's had a tantrum recently. Oh my gosh, he had one the other day and it just kept escalating and escalating. Nothing would make him calm down. Okay, so he had to get a haircut and he hates getting haircuts. And so he just kept working himself up and up and up and up. And I just let him work it up. We try to rationalize, but sometimes that does not work. We try to like really with my kid, we try to talk him through it when he comes to a calming place, having a conversation. But at a certain point, we say like, we try to rationalize and say like, we can't understand what you're saying. You know, you have to calm down. We can't understand. And try to get him to, when he finally does calm down, try to understand like, well, what's going on? How are you feeling? Why are you feeling that way? And then really doing like choices like, okay, well, if you do this haircut, if you don't do a haircut, then your hair is going to grow long and wild, like really just having a conversation about like different scenarios. But so that's our approach with Dallas, is like letting him go through it. And then when he gets to a calming place, having a conversation and trying to like get him to the other side. Because for us, it doesn't work to, that's really the thing that works for him. We don't have.
And sometimes you literally have to figure it out. Like, it's not like we one day were like, okay, count. Like, it just takes time to figure it out. And honestly, it's interesting because I feel like Bryson and I have a different approach on, at least in the beginning, we have different approaches on how to handle tantrums. And I didn't like his way. So he would be like, they need you got to be stern with them, like send him to his room and like, he'll figure it out. And I mean, and honestly, Jackson responds well to that. Like he goes to his room, he calms down. He may be like wild and crying in there. And when he calms down, he'll come out. But to me, I was like, he's just trying to communicate. Like, we don't need to just send him to his room. I mean, I'm the soft one of the two of us, and so that's where some of the counting came from. But sometimes it's a matter of just playing around with it to figure out what might be right and what might be wrong. And honestly, there is no right and wrong. It's just figuring out the right thing for your family.
Yeah. Well, you did say something that was interesting about how you and Bryson have different parenting styles when it comes to discipline. And I actually was looking at some articles before our conversation today about parenting, about discipline. And I found that there are different types of parenting styles, actually, that researchers have identified as, here are the different categories of parent. So tell me which one you think you fall into and which one you think Bryson falls into. And I'll tell you, same for me and Dontrell.
Yeah.
So the first one they said is an authoritarian parent. And this is a type of parent that demands a blind, unquestioning obedience, where they just say like, what I say goes. The next is an authoritative parent. This parent is a demands a mature and responsible behavior from their kids, but they also encourage family discussion and critical thinking. So I think it's like a mix of authoritarian parent, but they also encourage the child to come to their own conclusions by like scaffolding to get them there. A permissive parent, this can also be called an indulgent parent, who basically they reject the notion of keeping the kids under control. So they kind of just let the kids do what they want. And then the last one is an uninvolved parent. And this person, I mean, it's pretty much what it says. Somebody that's uninvolved. They don't really provide a lot of support and they don't enforce any standards. I mean, I think that one is like kind of off the table, but that is one of the styles.
I was going to say, like, some of these made me flinch a little bit. But so, okay, I think for sure, Bryson is a mix of authoritarian and authoritative. He's probably like a 60-40 mix there.
Okay.
And I think some of it is, you know, we have two young Black boys. He's, you know, a Black man raised in a house with another son, and he knows the kind of trouble that they could get into when they get older and how society may view them. So he really wants to set good discipline and training for them. So he truly is coming from a place of having a strong fist to help guide them and put them in the right direction. So that's the authoritarian one. But saying it made me say, ooh, that doesn't seem good. But I mean, I know it's from a good place, but I also think he has authoritative because the critical thinking and encouraging certain kind of behaviors and conversation, he also does. I think I am a mix of authoritative and permissive.
Okay.
Because I think what makes me feel that way is because I do have a strict side to me, but I also want to include the kids in the conversations about why we're doing something. So it's not like this unquestioning obedience, but I like to have conversations about why we're doing it one way and not negotiate, but sometimes talk through some things with them. And so maybe that's where the permissive part comes from, because I really don't want them to feel like they're under my control. I want just to mold them to make the right decisions. So I give them the freedom to make the wrong decisions, and hopefully we can talk through how to get to the right decision.
Yeah. I think these definitions are interesting because I don't really see, I see like the best one being authoritative. All the other ones to me seem like problematic in a sense, because it's like you're too stern, you're not stern enough, you're not even involved, or you're authoritative. So I think that for me, I would be authoritative also, because I feel like I have high standards for my kids. I expect them to meet those standards. I will enforce. There's a lot of rules that are enforced, but it's also like the way that they get there, there's like a fluidity and openness of how they meet those expectations. And I'm going to kind of go with them based on their personality, based on how they approach things, instead of like there's one set way to do things when it comes to like education and play and learning, and like kind of some of the things where I feel like it's more flexible. And I feel like Dontrell, and I feel like maybe this is just for like culturally as well, and also gender, that he also would be authoritarian and authoritative because of being a Black male, like you said, and just like what the world demands of you, and what he always is like telling me, like, as a Black man, like making it seem like this is and it is true, because I would say the same thing as a Black woman, that there's certain aspects that I don't understand and that I won't ever understand because I won't experience it. So he has that level of standards and expectations that there's like no flexibility with it, because he knows they're going to have to go into the world one day. However, at this age, we haven't come to the point where he's like so inflexible because they're so young. But I know that we've had conversations like when they get to a certain age, they're going to have to be this, they're going to do that. They need to be tough. They need to be this and that, which I don't think that he's going to really bend on. And I'm going to trust what he wants to do when it comes to those type of things.
That's so interesting. I mean, I feel like even at this age, Bryson is already there. Like an example of this, when Russell eats, he's eating with a fork. And he's 21 months. And so anytime he sees Russell eat with his hands, he'd be like, no, pick that fork up. eat with your fork. And I'm like, he's just a baby. Like, let him eat with his hands. And he's like, no, this is how we train them. Like, I mean, he's not mean about it. He's not mean about it at all, but he's just very like, has a structure. He likes structure, or like, when it comes to expectations around the house, it's like the kids put their shoes in the mudroom. And if they don't do it, I mean, I don't know why he's strict about that, because he does not put his shoes in the mudroom. But anyway, he's like, go get your shoes. Even Russell, little old 20-month Russell, he's like, Russell, get your shoes, go to the mudroom. And then Russell will grab the shoes. Yes, no. He grabs the shoes and goes. I'm like, oh, just let him be. He's a baby. So you see what our style is in the house.
You guys do have a lot of discipline when it comes to stuff like that. Because I notice it whenever they go to mom's house. Dallas will throw his stuff. Even today, he threw his clothes. I'm like, go pick that up. But like, your kids are like, this goes here. This is like
That's because it's like that in the house. And it's not because of me. But interestingly, Bryson and I discussed this. Even before you talked about these parenting styles, we discussed how our parenting styles are so different and how it stems back to our own childhoods. And I mean, we're no psychiatrists or psychologists, but this is just our discussion. But we were saying that it's almost like we want to do the opposite of what our experience was. So Bryson says he looks at me as an example of how I was raised, and he's trying to emulate that, knowing what I have told him and what mom and dad have told him about my upbringing. And I'm like, oh, I want a more... Let me back up, actually. So how we were raised, obviously, you know, but they were definitely...
What was your upbringing like?
It was definitely authoritarian. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. So like so authoritarian again is like unquestioning obedience. And also our parents are Caribbean. So I think that comes culturally as well.
Right. So we're first generation American. Our parents are immigrants, which you oftentimes hear many children of immigrant parents may experience something like that. So our parents were very strict, and we had to abide by a lot of rules that maybe other kids in the neighborhood and stuff like that did not have to do. And I've talked to him about what that childhood was like, and just, unquestioning, just doing what you're told. And so Bryson sees an example of me like never getting in trouble ever. And he's like, that's what I want for our kids. I'm going to be just like that. Whereas Bryson, his childhood, based on how he's described and his parents have described to me, is more like permissive / authoritative. Like there were rules, but he could do a lot of stuff. He got into lots of moments of trouble, as kids do. And he's like, I don't want my kids to get in the kind of troubles that I've gotten in. So that's why he's reversed. And I'm like, well, I want the freedom to do more. So I want to be more permissive. So isn't it interesting to kind of do the opposite?
I think that it's also personality types, because I got in trouble a lot, and we came from the same household. We had the same type of parenting style. I mean, I'm sure it was like not apples to apples. They probably differentiated their approaches for us because we were different. But even though our parents were authoritative, they had like, do this, do as you're told, no questions, no talking back. I still talked back. I still got in trouble a lot because I had our personalities were different. So I think that that's interesting, because even with this particular parenting type, you're still going to have to contend with your child's personality, which will have to force you to have a different approach. So maybe even in Bryson's home, him and his brother are different. So their parents may have been permissive and authoritative, but him and his brother may have said they had different experiences because of their personalities.
That's so true. Having this conversation makes me realize that I'm raising a little Jackson or a little Renita, and you're raising a little Christine. Like Jackson is so similar to me behaviorally, at least so far. Emotionally follows rules the way I probably did. And I feel like Dallas is so much like you. It's funny.
I think so too. And I always say this, I'm like, is it nature or nurture? I literally say this almost every day. I have this thought in my head, because yesterday I was telling you how Dallas was doing something and it was like exactly what I would do. And I was like, is it nature or nurture? Is it because of how we interact with him? Or is it literally just because he was born with these type of characteristics in him? And I still don't know the answer, but like when they do things, I'm like, oh, I see me in that. Did he learn that from me? Or is it something that he inherited from me? It's really interesting.
That's so true.
But even like when it comes to their behaviors again, so kind of tying it back into their behaviors and the discipline style, because, we see ourselves and our kids, we see behaviors that are things that maybe we did or just common behaviors for the age. So when it comes to like disciplining the children, I also found that there are different types of discipline styles. And I think that it's really interesting to think about how these discipline styles correlate to the parenting styles, because we know, of course, the common behaviors that kids have, especially in the toddler, infant age: tantrums, not sharing, hitting, lying, not listening, biting. These are very common behaviors, but how do we discipline? So before I talk about the styles, do you guys have like a common approach to discipline? Let's say like some of the behaviors I just shared. How would you guys discipline for like hitting and biting, not listening, lying? Is there like a common approach for all the behaviors, or is there a different approach depending on the type of behavior?
I think that a big component of our approach includes like saying no when it's wrong and explaining why something is wrong. That's usually like the first and second time. If we're on the third and fourth time, then we're at timeout. So maybe those would be more like, you'll talk about the traits or the styles, but it seems more like a negative style to me. But, we say, no, don't do that again. And then timeout, which is like the worst of it right now for the kids, or for Jackson, because we haven't done timeout for Russell. And that's usually going to a different room and probably there for about 3 or 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then usually when he comes out from that room, we talk through like, okay, do you understand why this happens? And are you going to do this again? And stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how we go about things. I've noticed though that Bryson and I, this is a place again, we don't disagree on. Sometimes he will do a bait, or not a bait, I don't know what the word is, like a carrot, but he'll be like, if you don't do this again, if you do good, you'll get a treat, you'll get this and that. And I don't like that, because I'm like, I guess it's a reward, but I just feel like I don't want them to just feel like they have to do something to get something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like, so actually I have a question. Do you guys do timeouts now?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you guys, we never got into timeouts. I think like
I put your son in timeout a few times.
You have.
He knows that his auntie will put him in timeout.
Oh my God. It's so funny. Cause like one time Dallas was like, are you going to spank me? And he said it like it was all fun. I was like,
how does he know about spankings?
I was like, how do you know about spankings? First of all, you've never got a spanking. And like, what do you mean? And he said it all joyfully. I'm like, I know you've never got a spanking because you're over there smiling and asking all happily, are you going to spank me? I'm like, no, we're not going to spank you. But we try a lot of different things, honestly. Like we tried many different things, but primarily the go-to is positive narration. So if he is hitting, or if he throws something, or if, like, you'll say hitting, we'll say soft touch, gentle touch, like telling them what we want them to do. Go put that in the dirty clothes hamper, pick that up. Instead of saying like, don't do this, don't do that, we try to say like, well, I try to say what they should do instead. And then like praising them, like, oh, good job. Okay. Thank you for doing this. And like acknowledging like, okay, thank you. You did this.
We do that too.
Soft touch. Yeah.
Yeah. Great job. We love that you did that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or thank you for putting that away. Thank you for helping your brother. Thank you. So that's typically like to encourage the positive behaviors. When the negative behavior is happening, it's telling them like soft touch, keep your mouth to yourself, keep your hands to yourself. And then also it's having a conversation of like, when you lie or when you hit somebody, it hurts their feelings, it hurts their body. That's not a right thing to do. We keep our hands to ourselves, and really just like breaking it down for them to understand. But then eventually, like if it is something severe, it will be like they kind of lose that privilege of like, okay, you're coloring with this marker on the wall, no more marker, or you're not playing with this toy properly, you can't play with this toy anymore.
It's, having this conversation with you actually makes me realize one other thing. And I think part of our discipline style, Bryson and I, is a change in our demeanor and a change in our tone. And that in itself is enough.
Yeah.
So like if we were doing something and Jackson threw something he wasn't going to throw, sometimes just me getting serious and looking at him seriously is enough for him to realize, ooh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Or there are times where my voice gets deeper and higher, and not like a yelling, but I'm like, Jackson, you know better than that, or something like that. So that's actually a big key part of how we do things with them, because I think that they notice a change in the demeanor and realize this is probably not something I should be doing. And if we need to escalate a little further, that's maybe when timeout comes in or something like that.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about that. I wanted to say that also, like tone and body language is also very important, because that communicates sometimes even more than what you're actually saying. So Dallas always picks up on it, and he's like, "Are you mad?" Because my voice will I always was doing that as a teacher. Like I would switch and get like very stern in my voice, my body language. And he knows that this is not a playtime. We're serious. You do not do that, especially when it's things that are dangerous. Like, you know, how Dallas sometimes just like to run in the street. Like
I can hear Dallas now. That's dangerous.
Right. It's a little questioning way of asking stuff. But yeah, that's a big one. I think tone and body language to me is like even more important than is almost like as equally as important as what you're saying, because they know once they hear you, even the little ones, like they will know. I think they say it with babies, they pick up on tone and body, on your facial expressions before they understand what you're saying, because that communicates as well.
But okay, there's something that I'm personally struggling with disciplining Jackson in particular. He's very emotional, like his mama. And when he's in trouble, whether it's because you've raised your voice or you go to timeout, he gets so sad and he cries and he's just like, "You're sad. You made me sad, blah, 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 blah." And then I am like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby." And Bryson's like, he is
manipulating
you. And then I realize he only does that with me. He does not do that with Bryson. Like if he's in trouble with Bryson and he goes to timeout or something like that, he comes out and it's all good. Never like, "Mommy, Daddy, I'm sad." And I think he is manipulating me.
He is. He definitely is. You have to just let him just ignore it. Dallas tries it too with me only. He's like, "Mommy." He tries to like huggy. I'm like, and I just like, "Get down. No, pick that up. Just keep it moving. Pick it up. No, go sit down."
I'm always like, "It's okay, baby. I still love you." Like,
no,
oh my God.
You don't want to do that, because then you're gonna miss the message. You can't get muddled. You know, keep it focused in that couple minutes. And I feel like it has to be like immediate. You can't drag it out, the discipline. It has to be like right then and there. Okay, yes, I love you too, but go sit down. Mommy loves you, but yes, go do what you need to do. Because they will milk. I feel like the moms always get it. Same with me. It's like Dallas is so affectionate with me all the time. Even when he's in trouble, he's like trying to change the narrative and stuff. I'm like, no. You're still in trouble. I'll hug you when we're done, when this is over.
These kids are smart.
They are. Okay. So with the different types of discipline, I'm going to list these out, and I wanted you to tell me if you feel like you fall into a particular type of disciplining your children. So the first type is positive discipline. And this is based on praise and encouragement. Instead of focusing on punishment, parents keep making discipline about teaching. So it's like problem solving and positive discipline. The next one, which I've heard a lot of parents talking about these days, and there's like a book out there that I think is very popular right now. I don't remember the title. I think it's Raising Good Humans or something like that. But it's called Gentle Discipline. And this focuses on preventing problems. Redirection is often used to steer kids away from bad behaviors. And they're usually given consequences, but it's really not focused on shame, and like humor is also involved in there, and having them recognize their emotions. The next one is boundary-based discipline. And this focuses on setting limits and making the rules clear up front. Kids are given choices, and there are clear consequences for misbehaviors. And there's something called natural or logical consequences. And I really like that. I used to do that a lot. And that's like when you say, if you draw on the wall, then you cannot use crayons, like something that's logical response, and not like if you draw on the wall, you're going to go time out. Minutes. Yeah. The next is behavior modification. And this focuses on positive and negative consequences. So good behavior is reinforced with praise or rewards, and misbehavior is discouraged through the use of ignoring or the loss of privileges. And then the last one is emotional coaching. And this is a process that it says has a 5-step discipline focus that teaches kids about their feelings. So it teaches them to understand their feelings and to teach them to verbalize them rather than acting on them. And they're taught that their feelings are okay, and parents help teach them the appropriate ways to deal with their emotions. So those are the 5 different behaviors that are identified. I found them online. So
yeah, that's interesting because I think I'm a mix of these. Like, it's not like one or the other.
Right.
Definitely there are some that I'm more geared toward, but like, for example, the boundary-based discipline, I think you described that as saying like, the behavior modification one. Like if you do something good, you're going to get positive feedback. If you do something wrong, then you're going to lose a privilege or something like that. I'm not going to ignore them, but that's probably the main one for me. But that kind of, to me, mixes in with the positive discipline and stuff like that. So, and even with the emotional coaching, like Jackson is a very emotional person, as I've said now 10 times. So talking to him about his emotions is a big part of how we raise him and discipline him. And so I think it just depends on what's going on, that we kind of flow naturally through all of these.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I feel like they're really fluid. Like I don't see myself falling into any one. I think maybe, I think it really depends on what's going on, like what he did. The article I found gives this really great example for each of them about the child refusing to do their homework and how somebody would respond for each of these different discipline techniques for a child refusing to do their homework. So when I look at those approaches, I feel like for me, I would primarily fall into the positive one, just to like motivate and encourage them, problem solving and praising. I think I do a lot of praising as a parent to like encourage. So I think I would likely fall into that. But like you said, there are certain times when I may be more behavior modification. If it's something that's, I think the behavior is more serious. Like, I think that also maybe goes to the parenting style and like your preference. Like if you view a certain behavior as really disruptive or frustrating for you, you might be more behavior modification compared to something else that you view as less challenging.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing is that there are more people who play a role in the development of your kids' behavior than you do. And I think about like how I mentioned, I put Dallas in timeout before, be like aunts and uncles, mom and I sometimes don't agree about, how she is handling his moments when he's doing something that I think he shouldn't be doing. And then honestly, like school, like if your kids are in daycare or school age, or have a nanny even, that's a part of it too. Like yesterday when I was putting Jackson to bed, that is the day that he was upset about me not holding the book right. And so during that conversation, we talked through it after his tantrum. And then at some point he apologized. He's like, "I'm sorry, mommy. I wasn't listening." And he said, "I'm sorry, mommy." And I was like, "Why are you apologizing?" He's like, "Because I was not listening, and listening is very important. It's also like when you hit somebody, you're not supposed to hit." And I just thought it was interesting that he took it there. And I was like, "Who taught you that? Where did you learn that?" And he's like, "At school." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is kind of the conversations that they're having. You apologize when you've done something you're not supposed to do." So it's kind of like that reasoning, rationalizing, this kind of modeling that he learned at school, which is one of the tenets that, we talked about you could do as your discipline style.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people who influence who discipline your children. Because of course, in every setting, there are going to be things that they're not doing right. I think for me at school and with others, I really want them to be positive, to do the positive one and the gentle. Because I feel like that teaches them the behaviors that you want them to do.
We are so opposite.
Oh, what do you want?
This is how me and mom get into it. I feel like she is well, I don't know if this is saying it makes me not feel comfortable. The uninvolved parenting. I'm like, no. She's not uninvolved. She's the permissive. That's the one, permissive parenting. But basically I feel like the kids can do something they're not supposed to do. And she's like, "That's okay. That's all right." Like, I feel like I want her to be more strict. And that's my expectation of those around the kids, not mean, but more setting boundaries and being authoritative. That's my expectation.
Like most grandparents are probably like that because it's their grandkids and not their kids. They are very permissive because I don't know, it's just a thing that grandparents do. But yeah, I really feel like reinforcing even just like the positive behavior. So we talked about negative behaviors and how we respond to that and how we discipline, but how do you guys reinforce positive behaviors? And like, I mean, you just said an example of how Jackson talked about the right thing to do. And that really that was unprompted. So how do you guys reinforce positive behaviors when you see those happening?
Yeah, I definitely think that we praise him for doing good things. So saying, great job. We have a dance that we do. And this is really corny, but we do a little dance with him and celebrate when he's done something really good. So if he's helping his brother, he's thrown away his trash after he ate dinner. So we celebrate actively all together. We also, in addition to like giving praise, we give him the room to do more, to like have autonomy and independence. So we'll say, wow, you did such a great job with, putting your plate away at dinner. Why don't you, help us today cook this time? And even though that's like a fun thing, but it's like, it's a privilege to him to be able to do more things and to feel like he's done so much that he's graduated onto something else,
Wow. Yeah. That's sweet. Yeah, I think praising for us again is what we do, like recognize like, oh, thank you so much for putting your plate away. You cleaned up really well, like narrating what they did well. Oh, look at Dallas picking up his plate. He's doing such a good job. He's helping his brother. He's such a good big brother. He's such a helpful brother. Like just letting them know, like, we see you, what you're doing. We love what we're seeing. And then I think for us also going into the authoritative parent, because it's also like there's an expectation of like once he learned how to do it, it's like, okay, great, you're doing what you're supposed to do. So sometimes it's just a matter of like, thank you, because it's like now that you have mastered this, you need to be doing this all the time. So thank you for just doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is cleaning up after yourself and putting your stuff away, No,
that's so true. And then also, I think knowing that his younger brother is going to be following him, we say things to him like, look at what a great job you're doing. Can you help Russell with that? Or can you show Russell what to do? Not to put pressure on him to do something for his brother, but just more to show like, this is why a good example should be there because other people are watching you and following you. And it's interesting. We've spent a lot of this conversation talking about Jackson and Dallas, but for our younger kids who are 1, there's a level of discipline that I think is even tougher because they don't communicate with us the way that the older ones do. So Russell, for example, is the main thing he's going through right now. That's maybe not a positive thing is the tantrums. And again, that's probably because he's trying to figure things out. So I find that we are changing our tone and saying no, and we're not doing timeout or anything like that. That's kind of how we are setting the guidelines for him on how to adjust the tantrums more than the communication that we do and talking through why we don't do something with Jackson, but we still do some of the positive things. Like we'll say, great job. You put your shoe away. Thank you for using your fork, or not thank you, but like, yay, you're using your fork. We still do a lot more of the positive because he understands and he can see that, but he's not going to understand if we try to rationalize and explain things to him at his age.
Yeah, same. You're right. Like for the little ones, it's a lot of like, yay, and clapping and good job, high five, that type of celebration for them. But I have a hard time disciplining Dakota because I don't know. I feel like, oh, he's just a baby. He's not ready for that yet. But now I think we're finally at the point where like, okay, we actually do need to start telling him right from wrong. He's almost 2, but we still kind of just let him throw his food on the floor and throw his cup. They really are kind of just owning the whole world. They do whatever they want. And for us, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you'll get it one day. But I think we need to step it up with him because he does understand. We know that they do understand because when you tell them something, they follow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's hard too, because you see them as babies. And I think having Russell made me see Jackson as a bigger kid. So it was easier for me to like transition into more discipline, but Russell's my baby. And
yeah,
I'm like, oh, he's just a baby. It's
I
just
know.
this, it's just that.
Yeah.
Now I saw somewhere on Instagram, like if you have a kid who's having a tantrum and not listening, instead of raising your voice or changing your tone to be higher and intense, you can like whisper and talk quietly, and it makes them focus to listen to you and stop their tantrum. I tried that. No, it didn't work for me. I was about to
say, I never liked that. I remember when I was teaching, that was one of the behavior management techniques. And I never liked that because it never worked for me. And I don't think I don't advocate for that.
I know.
But maybe if somebody else has some luck with that, let us know, because nah.
That's so true. Now we're talking about 2 boys. I'm very curious about people who have daughters, if there are any differences in how they discipline or what they experience. I'm curious.
Yeah, because I've heard that boys have way more energy than girls. And so like maybe what we tolerate as moms of boys may be different than moms of girls, because like jumping off furniture and running around loudly and screaming, like that's okay. I'm not going to tell him to stop doing that because he's but maybe for girls, like maybe that's not as common. You know, I think maybe there is a difference. Like I think about our upbringing. I don't think we did the things that our kids do.
No. Anytime I talk to my girlfriends, especially those who have kids, girl kids, they'd be like, wow, your house is loud.
It is.
I'm like, yeah, loud. Everybody in this house is so loud except the dog, surprisingly.
But your house is louder than my house too. Your house.
My kids are wild. I don't know what to say, including my 3rd child, Bryson.
Yeah. I think he encourages the noise somehow. I think he like is the leader of
they're like rough housing. Well, actually we both do it. Like I, in the morning, am singing and dancing with them. I told you we have like a celebratory dance and stuff. Mm-hmm. In the afternoons when Bryson has his energy, he's running around dancing with him. You know, I told you they were singing that We Ready song.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a loud house.
Yeah. And they also have Jackson has a voice that kind of carries him and Russell. They both have loud voices.
Yeah. Well, I just love the freedom to help our kids be who they want to be and have the room to grow and explore within boundaries. And I think that's the whole point of discipline, is raising them in a way that they learn right from wrong, so that when they go into the world, they'll remember those lessons. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting to see all the different techniques and the different ways to do it. But I think that's always the goal.
Yeah, definitely. Just making sure that your kids are prepared when they're not with you to make good decisions and to do things that will keep them safe, and also just be better engaged with other people. And yeah, it's an important job. It's so important. I think this is one of the most important jobs, because this is parenting, is teaching them how to be people. And I don't think that there's any right or wrong approach. I mean, maybe the uninvolved parent is wrong, but I think that whatever works for you and your children. I'm just excited that things have evolved from like the days of spankings and like more authoritarian approach to customizing your approach for your kids and really listening to them, understanding and teaching them what the correct behaviors are.
Yeah, I agree. And at the end of the day, I think we all want the best for our kids. And so being able to see these different techniques, talking to you about it, is even encouraging for me to try some different ways and to see what fits my family, because there's no right fit for everybody.
Yeah, I want to try some things too. Like I want to start doing more like songs and like things that they will remember, and like it will click in, like let's say brushing their teeth, like just a song or something that they'll remember, like, oh, brush my teeth, or like go in the bathroom, wash my hands, use it, flush it, wash my hands, get out. I used to teach that when I was teaching, like some fun ways to parent. It doesn't have to be all like, oh, we're teaching behavior, but it can also be a fun experience too. And I think as the kids get older, hopefully it can continue to be an enjoyable process to teach your kid behaviors when they're like teenagers. I heard from somebody the other day, like, my kid's a teenager, they want nothing to do with me, and it's just so different. So
I know I'm not ready for that.
No,
but so speaking of songs, we do have a little bit of some stuff like that. I mean, I'd love to sing around the house, but so when Jackson is amped up or feeling overwhelmed, I talk to breathe in the flowers and blow out the candles. And we would do this whole technique, which he still does now. And then I have a meditation on the Calm app that he likes. So when he's really frustrated or feeling like after a tantrum or he's sad or something like that, I'll be like, do you want to do a Thomas the Train? He's like, yeah. And it's just like listening to some kind of meditation about what happens when you don't get your way or something like that. And so these are these little techniques that honestly I mirrored myself. Like even as adults, you get frustrated, you get sad, you get anxious. And so I meditate. I was like, hey, there's a kid one. Let me do it with him. Yeah, or like good. I deep breathe more when I'm stressed out to calm myself down. And so, they're little humans, just like we're big humans. So kind of playing around with things that may help us, because their emotions and feelings are just as real as we have them. And it may not be rational, just like our feelings aren't rational at times too.
Right.
So I try to remember that in disciplining and in the way that I handle those moments.
Yep. And that also makes me think about what you're saying, like different techniques outside of the disciplining itself, but I think some preemptive things that we do so that you can avoid misbehaviors. Like, for example, I know that whenever Dallas has to stop something abruptly or is not aware of what's coming, that can cause a tantrum. So when he's playing, it's like, okay, 5 more minutes until you're done. Or if we're at somewhere fun, it's like, okay, we're going to leave here soon. We're going to say bye-bye to the park. We're going to leave the park. So make sure, 5 more minutes, so that it's not just like, all right, let's go. It's like he had a moment to prepare. It's like, all right, last swing on the swing before we go. And hopefully that prevents the tantrum. And
that's so true. We do the same thing kind of like, we'll talk about what that next transition is going to be. Okay, we're leaving this birthday party, but don't forget we're leaving because you've got soccer next or something like that.
Yep. So I think that really can prevent some misbehaviors, as well as using music. So you talked about singing. We use music to help with transitions and to help with things. So when we're cleaning up, we'll using our Alexa to play the cleanup song, using music for breakfast to like help them. So for the cleanup song, it's like when the song's done, you need to be done cleaning up, or you have like 3 plays of this song to help him get through something without it turning into a whole blow up meltdown. And then for breakfast, it's like, we're going to play this song. Like we have certain soundtracks almost to things that we do so that they know we're in this moment, we're doing this thing. And the music, I think, helps like calm them and keep them focused and on track.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, such good stuff.
I know. I think we're doing a good job. I think every parent's doing the best they can. And I'm just happy to hear that we're trying different things and, really I'm trying to do what's best for our kids and for our family. And it's clear that we have different approaches, but so far what we're doing, it seems to be, I hope, helping our kids learn how to be better people.
Yeah. And, people say parenting is hard. And part of that is this part of it, because there's no rule book. So hang in there because you've got this, and just listen to your motherly intuition.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're so glad that you can join us for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you back in 2 weeks for the next one. Take care.
Bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing, and leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram @thecradleandall, or email us at thecradleandall@gmail.com.